Hello, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you so much for joining us at Rendez-Vous with French Cinema in its 26th edition, our annual collaboration with Film at Lincoln Center and Uni France. My name is Florence Elmosini. I'm a senior programmer at Film at Lincoln Center and programmer for Rendez-Vous with French Cinema. I want to thank our partners at Uni France for organizing the festival and helping us with having the Q&A. Unfortunately, all on Zoom and virtual this year, but we're still very happy to be discussing with directors and talents. I also want to thank the US distributor of this film you just saw, Gagarine, Cohen Media, for working with us in the festival, and which is also nice to know that the film will have a longer life after the festival and will be distributed in the US. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the director of Gagarine. We have Fanny Liatard and Jérémy Trouilh with us today.
Hello.
And welcome to the big family of Rendez-Vous with French Cinema for your first feature film.
Thank you.
I'm just going to ask to start maybe a fairly easy question, but I assume you are asked often. You made previously a short film which, that you wrote and directed with the same title, but the main actor was a little bit older and it was a different actor. So obviously you had more things to say from the short film. So can you talk to start as the origin of the film as a feature film coming from the shorts?
So thank you for welcoming us. The story started in 2014 when with Jérémy we arrived in Paris, both of us with the big willing to make film, but we never did it before. So what happened is that we met Gagarine, this block of 4,000 apartments, and we were really impressed first by the architecture of the place, this big red bricks block, and just after someone told us that it was going to be demolished. So we were wondering why, and then we met inhabitants of the place and they started to tell us their stories of life here. Sometimes they have been here for generations. So very quickly and of course, the story of the place was incredible and linked to space because Yuri Gagarin the astronaut came to inaugurate the place in the 60s. So we decided, yeah, it would be great to make a fiction here, and we answer a script challenge with Jérémy. But we had to make we won a script challenge, but it was a film limited to 15 minutes we could make with this challenge. And just after make this first short film, we had spent a lot of time with the inhabitants, and we were very attached to this place. So it was too short to tell all the stories we wanted to tell, and we wanted to go further into Yuri's character, why he doesn't want to leave this place, this block, why he is so attached to this place. It's because of the community, the inhabitants around him, they are his family, and we wanted to talk more about them. So we started to write a feature one, and it took 4 years, and we spent a lot of time in the building, and we saw the inhabitants going away one by one, and at the end when we showed the film, but we'll talk more about this I guess, but the block, the building was entirely empty, and now he is not existing anymore.
So were you not tempted to make a documentary at all with the city and the destruction of the city? You shot some images of the destruction. It could be from the news, but maybe it's also from you. Wouldn't that have been an easier way as first-time filmmaker than doing a fiction film?
We definitely have an interest in documentary. I studied documentary. Fanny, she worked in other blogs in Marseille with artists in maybe a more realistic way of telling stories. But both of us wanted deeply to tell a fiction story. I think it's both because we wanted something very narrative, to create a hero with a strong destiny that would be a metaphor of a youth that we don't see enough from our point of view, a youth that have big dreams and that have strength inside of their community and find the strength to fight against an image that can enclose themselves in something too negative sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so we felt that fiction would be something powerful to help us do that. And also maybe we had strong images we wanted to create linked to science fiction sometimes. And fiction was the easy way for us to explore this.
Okay. I actually thought you were from the city of Gagarine yourself because you filmed it with such emotional point of view, but I thought it was the place you came from. It really came across as something you were deeply linked to as a space with the people and the idea of the city as it was constructed and should have become and stayed. So I really thought you were filming your, your place.
That's true. We kind of found a family there when we arrived in Paris. It looked like more like our villages we were from in France than Paris center. So we spent so much time there. We during all the writing process, we made the workshop with inhabitants, young people. We made a short film with them where they're talking about their dreams and their future. And we made also the documentary short films with other inhabitants. So we spent time. We were lucky because there is a structure in the neighborhood, maison de quartier, and we spent time writing there, meeting people, talking about their life, and yeah, it was a really good time for us. Very inspiring, and also yeah.
Can you talk also about the casting of the film? Because you have a mix of professional actors, not that many, but a lot of first-time actor, and I guess maybe non-professional at all, maybe people from there. So it's quite an interesting mix, which also probably came with challenges. The main actor, Yuri, is really amazing, and he carries all this softness and dreams from inside him, and it really translates well to the audience. I really like the role of Diana also. I think she's extremely well written. I love the actress too. I think she was in the Papisha Girl, right? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she has a role that transcends the usual secondary actor, especially a girl in this type of movies. She's strong. She's a great counterpart to the dreaminess of Yuri, bringing back him to reality. But she's really energetic too. And the way they are mixed together, I thought was really interesting and very original as well. So can you talk a little bit about like the casting and writing for them?
Thank you so much for these kind words and for them. So Alseni Batili is a young person we met during the casting process. It took us 6 months. We worked with Judith Chalier, casting director of Keshish and many first films also in France. And she's used to this casting sauvage, working with non-professional actors. And we knew that for the main character, as we were looking for a young black man of 16 years old, we had great chance to find someone who had never played. So we looked everywhere. We began to look at Gagarine, of course. We were hoping to meet our Yuri in the block, but we didn't. So we went more and more around Paris and other suburbs. And finally, Alseni, he sent an email. He took a paper of the casting process in his high school. And it was his very first time playing when he came to the casting. And he amazed us from the very first time because he has something very pure, a truth inside of him that he gives very generously, and that fitted the character so much. It was just a little, it took us a little bit of time to realize that it was him, the Yuri we were looking for, because on the writing process, we were imagining someone who was looking maybe a little more weak, meaning a little more true teenager, and Alseni Batili has already kind of a hero body, you know, he's very sportive, and so it took us a time, but we realized that it was beautiful because he has a duality inside of him. He has a childhood, a childness, and a purity inside of his eyes and his smile, and at the same time he's already a hero that gives trust to the character of Yuri, that needs to be quite strong to go through all the way of the story we wrote for him. So it was a beautiful encounter. And then, of course, we had to create a community around him. And for Diana, the Roma girl, at the first time, at the beginning with Fanny, we were hoping to find a Roma girl from the Roma community, because we were thinking this community is so poorly shown in features and in cinema in France, at least. So we were thinking it would be amazing, but it went quite difficult, this process of casting. Even though we had spent a lot of time in Shantytown with Fanny, we made a documentary with the Roma community, but still it was difficult to find a girl that was strong enough to play all those emotional scenes. And we realized that we also had to trust the fiction and the work of the actor. And when we met Lina Koudry and we did tries with her and Alseni, she was so generous in her way of acting, and she gave so much during the process of the shooting also to Alseni. I think they gave each other something, but it really helped us to tell the story we wanted to tell, and the strengths she represents of this young girl and her community. She's the one that brings Yuri outside of the building. He's always inside. The only times he goes outside, it's because Diana takes his hand, and so she's a strong motor of the story going on. Maybe one last thing is that so we have some professional actors like Lina Koudry, Finnegan Oldfield, Farida Rawaj, who plays Fari, inspired by a person we met in our writing process. But we wanted also many faces of Gagarine, of course. So all the collective scenes, the final scene or the eclipse scene, these are places where we could ask the former inhabitants to come back and be in the film. So we have hundreds of actual people from Gagarine who accepted to be in the film and play with our cast of actors.
Oh, that's lovely. Did they bring flowers to the building like they do in the film? It was quite moving. I also wanted to ask you about the mise-en-scène of the film that I find extremely beautiful. And for a first feature, I think you really managed to find a way to place the people, the banlieue, and he has a sort of poetry that is also represented by Yuri, but you can find in the way you depict the pictures, the space, and the buildings. So can you talk about the creation of the mise-en-scène, how you approach this?
In all the writing and then mise-en-scène process and then editing, we had this balance to find between a realistic background and the willing to show the true people of the block, and to find yes, some kind of reality. And at the other side we had this science fiction part we wanted some precise camera movement and the work on the light when Yuri is going into his dreams of space was quite precise. So it was a challenge to find this balance in all the mise-en-scène. What we decided is the guide of our mise-en-scène was to to stay always in the point of view of Yuri. So he sees his blocks as a spaceship. So first in the movie, it's just a teenager who dreams, who has big dreams of space, but it's just in his head, in his little room on the walls, some pictures of a spaceship. But then little by little in the movie, the space part is going outside his head and spreading in all the block. So the scenes are going more and more into fiction and into almost science fiction to finish in weightlessness at the end. So we try to develop it little by little, and also it's the change between realistic scenes and fiction are in the choice of colors, in the daily life of Yuri. The blue is everywhere, and then when he goes into his dreams, the red color is really present. So we played with that, and we had a lot of fun with our DOP Victor Seguin to see all the science fiction movie again and get inspired by these films, and to play with the angles of the building, the camera movement in floating, like if we were in weightlessness ourselves. So yeah, we had a lot of fun and to think this mise-en-scène.
We had a sort of double feeling we wanted to express through our mise-en-scène, which could be associated to Yuri's feelings and to the building's feelings also, which was like everything is between, all is falling apart, and everything is also on the border of going weightlessness, you know, and this double sense of not wanting to say goodbye, but at the same time looking up at the future and with perspectives is something we tried to give through the mise-en-scène.
Can you talk? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to add, we were really lucky to have the building, a part of the building just for our shooting, because the demolition work started at the beginning of the summer 2019, and we started the shooting at the same time. So the workers, they were arriving from one side of the block, and we had the block A just for us. So we had empty apartments where some inhabitants had let their pieces of their lives, tables, little objects, some postcard on the walls. So we had this matière to develop our decor, and like a studio just for us in the empty building, full of all these lives that had passed by here. So it was a really rich matière for us to develop our mise-en-scène.
Yeah,
and it was rich, but it was also challenging. I'm thinking of the scenes where Yuri is flying. We wanted it to be shot in the actual building and not in a green screen, because it would give some trust to these science fiction parts of the film. But then it was very challenging, because how do you do to make your young teenager fly in the stairs where there is 20 meters high, and so we had to think for each set, the stairways, the corridor, the basement with all the machines, a specific way of making Yuri fly and of lightening that. And it was very challenging. We storyboarded all those parts to be sure we would have exactly what we wanted, because it's quite precise, but it was very, very exciting. And on the moment we finally would say action, for Yuri's going up the stairway, flying at night, when outside of it there was a huge lights turning around the building as the sun would be turning around, and everybody was like very silent and looking at Yuri's flying. It was like you wouldn't see the strings. It was like he was flying on real life. It was beautiful.
I was wondering how that was shot. I'm glad to see that it was shot all together and not in a studio or a green screen. Yes, of course, there was wires that people could not see. I believed in the magic, personally. I wanted to ask a little bit more about your collaboration with Victor Seguin, because the cinematography is really astonishing. And you mentioned a little bit about the color and the blue and the reds. But how did you started to collaborate on creating the cinematography together?
Well, we were very lucky to meet him from our very first short film in Gagarine. And it was very new for us at the time. We had never been on a fiction set, so he gave us a lot of his knowledge, of course, but he's also very he's a good listener, and so we have a great communication. We talk a lot about movies, and for Gagarine we didn't talk much about movies who take place in blocks like La Haine or Les Misérables, but more about huge sci-fi movies that make us dream, like 2001 on Solaris or Blade Runner, and also of directors who have an attention to details that give you a daily life poetry. I'm thinking of Koreeda, of course. Nobody Knows was a great reference for us, being the story of kids alone in an apartment who have to survive. We have also great love for Leos Carax and all his movies, because he creates with the images he invents with his DOP a world that don't really exist, but still really talks to you about our reality, our society. And so with Victor, we talk a lot through this kind of references. And then for each scene, we try to think what will be the good way to tell the story we're telling at this moment of the story. So as Fanny said, we really questioned the point of view, and it helped us a lot to understand that all the film would have to be from Yuri's point of view.
Yeah, what we can say also is that we are lucky because Victor is very involved in also the preparation of the film. So he came to Gagarine for the short film, but then he never left the place as we did. We spent a lot of time to watch at this building and questioning ourselves, how can we film it in a new way, as a spaceship? And we were like children playing and trying to imagine new things with an old building. So we were looking for every tash on the floor that can looks like a space planets. Or and what we did also is that we had this scene that we with that we cut, we prepared together very precisely. The camera movement were very, for example, the rotation of the camera in the garden. We prepared it a lot, but also we had times during the shooting in the weekend. We were in a very small team, and during this time we went to film inhabitants in the neighborhood around the block, and so and all this material is in the movie. All the inhabitants walking, taking coffee in the bar close to the block, and so it gave a lot of material for realism in the movie. So we had and Victor is always really enthusiastic to come with us, and we don't know what we are going to film, but we go. So yeah, it's nice. It's a nice collaboration.
Did you make the actor watch some of the science fiction movie that you know, like the Tarkovsky or Kubrick or Blade Runner, or did you ask them maybe to watch or not watch the banlieue movie that you also mentioned? But I did think of Les Miserables specifically because of the way the Roma are depicted in both films, which is quite opposite. But yeah, so I was wondering if you ask them to prepare by watching films or specifically not watch anything at all and come fresh.
No, we definitely talked a lot about movies, not movies from banlieue, but sci-fi movies or relationship movies. We took a week with the actors on a house by the beach before the shooting to spend time all together. It was very nice. And it was beautiful also to create links between people that didn't really know each other for some of them. And so for each of them, we watched movies all together. For instance, we watched Paris, Texas, because we love Wim Wenders and the sensitive way he has to create links between characters. We think it's beautiful, and we wanted them to have this kind of security with us to know that we would give tenderness to each of their characters, and they had to give also to their characters this kind of love somehow. And then there was some specificity. For instance, Finnegan Oldfield, when we met him, he had read the script, and it's him. He talked to us about Blade Runner because he said, for me, Dali, his character, is a kind of a replicant. He's not exactly from Earth, and he's looking at the humans as they were foreigners, and he's kind of out of the box and looking at the world like that. And we thought it was a very beautiful way of seeing his character. So the exchanges were both ways, of course.
Yeah, Finnegan, I met him once, and he seems very smart in the way he reads cinema. And I think for a young actor, he has a lot of really interesting experience also. And I always like watching him on screen. Also, you have it's a small cameo by Denis Lavant, but I guess maybe it's an homage to his work with Carax that you just mentioned also. But whatever he does on screen, it's always mesmerizing, even if it's a small role. So yeah, I really like the cast. How do you divide your work together as partner? Do you, I don't think you always probably think the same thing, but do you have a way of I write more, I direct more, or like I talk to that actor, I talk to the DP, or do you divide your work?
We don't really divide because we are learning, still learning together. We started together, so, and we love to do everything together. So now we write all our scripts together, talking a lot, and then sometimes we share parts of the script to write, and then we exchange and exchange again. So we don't know at the end who wrote what in the script. And then now during the shooting, we love to talk with actors as much as we to talk with the DOP. So what's happening is for one scene, one of us is after the cut is running to talk to the actors, and the other one to the DOP, and the scene after it's changing. We exchange our places, and sometimes where we have a doubt or we disagree, we take a small time to talk, and on the set it's cool because it's slowly it creates a break, and sometimes it's good to calm down everybody. So now we are in a permanent dialogue, and because we prepare and we prepared Gagarine for months, I think we have the same idea of the thing, so we don't divide.
No disagreement?
No, not really. It's, I mean, as you said, of course, maybe sometimes someone has a small different feeling for something than the other, and we just have to be careful to listen to each other all the time, because usually there is something interesting in this diversity of point of view, and so it's by talking that we can open the mind and question things and take a decision. But usually it's okay.
Yeah, and what happens is that if we finish a prise and we feel we can feel something's wrong, but sometimes we have different answer of what we will change to make it better, and so we try everything. Like we do both ideas of what we have to change in the way of playing of an actor to make it better, and yes, we are searching together, and we feel when it's good, we feel both of us is feeling the same thing. So.
You also put yourself in the film for a small role, so to be actors as well. It's a complete experience. You're the building inspector.
Yeah, it was. We were supposed to be both have a role, but at the end we realized it was not easy to both of us. It was the first week of shooting, the first time directing a feature film, the first time acting. So I stayed in the movie, and it was really interesting to pass at the very hard, but very interesting to be at the side of the actors and to trust Jérémy for directing all the scene, and yeah, to be able to feel the pressure on us, but also how they have fun together. So yeah, it was a nice and hard experience. Then the harder part was at the editing process to to see it's we have to get used not to see. I'm not used to see me on screen and listen to my voice. It was quite hard, but yes, a funny experience.
Or even you have to trust the other director to do best for his actress, you know. But it's
she was perfect from the very first shot. So
no retake.
By the way, it was the canicule in the building this week of shooting. We were sweating. All the people was like dying of warm, and so it was quite hard this part of the shooting with all the inhabitants fighting in the tiny corridor of the building. But
I can just imagine. Before we run out of time, I wanted to ask if you were planning other movies together. I guess you're a good team as a co-director, co-writer, maybe actors. But what do you want to do next? And if you have something written already?
We are in the process of writing. We are developing 2 feature films, one in France and one in United States of America. So we are developing, thinking through ideas that we had a long time ago, taking them back and going all the way in the process of thinking our characters, our story. It's very exciting to go again in new stories. So, and we are doing it together very happily to be able to go on with our shared experience.
Because the entire world is kind of in a lockdown, we try to travel with our spirits and imagination in New York City. So we're having a good time to create stories in new places we don't really know, but we hope strong to discover soon. Yeah.
Well, it's a good time to write while we cannot travel, and you definitely have a lot of imagination to enlighten us and to share. So I'm sure
Thank you.
we'll be really happy to see what you come up with next. But for now, I really love Gagarine. I hope the audience loved it as much as I did. I'm really glad that you have a distributor, and I'm really grateful that you spent some time talking with us about the film and the process behind the film. It was really lovely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fanny. Thank you, Jérémy. And really great English.
Take care, everyone. And thanks again for watching Gagarine and for this chat. It was lovely.
Thank you.